Hello everyone. In this lecture video, we will going to have an introduction to one of the CPA board exam subject named Management Advisory Services. In this lecture video, we should be able to discuss the foundations and key areas of management services, show the period of practices in MS areas, enumerate the fundamental principles for CPAs in consulting services, and we should be able to discuss the overview of practice standards and engagement process. To start, let's talk about the scope. According to Philippine Accountancy Act of 2004 or Republic Act 9298, the following are the areas of practice of accountancies. We have public, we are referring to the firms or auditing firms, private, commerce and industry, we have the academe and the government. The following are the core concepts of management services. The first one is the manager as advisory client. If we are talking about management services, we are serving the needs of the top management and we are engaged to increase the wealth of the business organization. We have to exercise the decision-making power. The CPA as advisor or consultant must provide professional advice and technical assistance to managers. As a consultant, you will be an advisor that is independent and a competent professional accountant who enjoys the trust and confidence of the managers. Analytical approach and process, you are typically involves more than an incident effort devoted to some combination of activities in determining client objectives, fact-finding, opportunity problem definition, evaluation of alternatives, formulation, and follow-up. The following are the areas of management services. There are two types of services that a CPA can offer. We have the traditional or the extended. For the traditional, it includes auditing, taxation, and financial accounting. For the extended, the operational advice includes counseling management in its analysis, planning, organizing, operating, and controlling functions. When we say special studies, the CPA, when we say special studies, a CPA will going to conduct a social studies, proposing plans and programs, and providing guidance and technical assistance in the implementation of his or her clients. Organizational analysis includes reviewing and suggesting improvements of policies, procedures, systems, methods, and organizational relationships. And lastly, innovations will include a CPA to introduce new approaches, methods, techniques, and concepts to the management to solve an existing problem. Let's talk about the period of practices in management services. There are two major types of period of practices. We have the pioneering and the emerging. For the pioneering services, it can be divided into two major services, the finance and accounting and non-finance and accounting. Financial accounting pertains to financial accounting system design and development. Management accounting involves financial accounting system design and development, standard cost system development, cost analysis and control, and variance analysis. For the financial management, you will help the client to establish the capital budgeting procedures. You should be able also to have a study on the cost of capital, financial structures, and systems. For the non-finance and accounting, it involves general management, which includes pension plan review, long-range planning, special studies on industry potential. Project feasibility studies involves preparation of business plan or preparation of project feasibility study, or you will going to help your client to evaluate project studies, major assumption, or general management. Organization and personnel include services of existing organizational structure, job evaluation and salary administration, retirement plan and benefits, and studies of office cost reduction systems. For the emerging practice in management services, it can be divided into three major parts. We have the management consulting, transaction and restructuring, risk consulting. For the management consulting, it involves marketing and operations, business performance, IT advisory services. For the transaction and restructuring, you will going to be involved in corporate finance and transaction services. For the risk consulting, internal audit and forensics are the two major services that a CPA can offer. Let us talk about the fundamental principles for CPAs in the Philippines. There are five fundamental principles: integrity, objectivity, competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. For the integrity, a professional accountant should be straightforward and honest in performing his or her professional services. Integrity is the sum of what you say and do. Integrity is the baseline of management services professional practice. For objectivity, a professional accountant should be fair and should not allow prejudice or bias, conflict of interest, or influence of others to override objectivity. Objectivity is a state of mind, a quality that lends value to a member's services. It is also a distinguishing feature of the profession. A professional accountant should perform professional services with due care, competence, and diligence, and has a continuing duty to maintain professional knowledge and skills at a level required to ensure that a client or employer receives the advantage of competent professional service based on up-to-date development in practice, legislation, and techniques. For confidentiality, a professional accountant should respect the confidentiality of information acquired during the course of performing professional services or disclose any such information without proper and specific authority or unless there is a legal or professional right or duty to disclose. And lastly, professional behavior. A professional accountant should act in a manner consistent with the good reputation of the profession and refrain from any conduct which might bring discredit to the profession. Let us now discuss the technical standards for professionals involved or engaged in consulting services. Technical standards set the threshold of orientation and quality in the performance of professional practice. These are normally established by policymaking bodies through an established process to serve as guideposts of services and ensure benefits to the client and other stakeholders. It speaks of the differentiating skills and expertise of a professional accountant from other provider of similar services. In addition, they should conform with the technical and professional standards of the following. Kindly take note that all of these are specific to those professionals in the Philippines. First, the professional should abide with the rules and regulation from the Board of Accountancy or BOA and Professional Regulation Commission or PRC. Professionals are also expected to follow the rules and regulations from the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission, Auditing Standards and Practice Council ASPC, Accounting Standards Council ASC, and the relevant legislations here in the Philippines. A According to Rule 201 and 202 of American Institute of Certified Public Accountant Code of Professional Conduct, the following must be observed. There are two standards that a professional must follow. The first one pertains to the controlling standards. Under Rule 201, the controlling standards are as follows: professional competence, sufficient relevant data, planning and supervision, and due professional care. Under the general standards or Rule 202, the following must be considered. First is the client interest. Second, we have to establish the understanding with the client. Third, we should be able to communicate the results with the client. And lastly, all professionals should apply professional judgment. Presented to you is the high-level management engagement process. The first one is the negotiation. In this stage, you will going to define the problem and you should be able to know the nature of the engagement, the scope, objective, and you should be able to communicate initially the professional fees. Once the negotiation is successful, an agreement will now be prepared. This includes proposal letters, confirmation letter, engagement letter, contract, and file memos. After signing the contract or agreement, the engagement team can now start the engagement and they should be able to execute the work program. After starting the engagement, professionals can now start data gathering and data analysis. After gathering and analyzing the data, professionals should be able to come up with a report. It can be a long form or a short form. The report will include the initial findings, conclusions, and the recommendations to the client. Once the report has been completed, a decision should be made. The implementation should include the general design, the detailed design. It should include the testing and the performance monitoring and follow-up of the recommendations included in the report. And lastly, evaluation and post-engagement should be done on the decision or implementation of the recommendations in the report. That's the end of our lecture discussion for the introduction of management advisory services. Thank you all for watching.